Hello, everybody. Before we get into our wonderful special guest episode, I want to make a quick announcement. As of this week, we are now Dragon Shield affiliates, and we have custom That's a Good Card sleeves available on the Dragon Shield website. So if you're interested in that, check out the link in the description down below. And if you're looking to purchase any other Dragon Shield material, maybe a deck box, some other sleeves, inners, use discount code TAGC5, all caps, at checkout to get 5% off. All right, thank you very much, and let's get into today's guest episode. Hello and welcome, listeners, to That's a Good Card. We are thrilled to welcome a wonderful guest, someone who has been a pinnacle of the Southern California CEDH scene for a while, Wayne, also known as Boros Wayne, Boros Armory Wayne. Wayne, what's your go-to pseudonym?
We've got a few. Colloquially, everybody says Boros Wayne just because it rolls off the tongue. On Discord, I am known as Wayne, Blade of Boros, which is a very long backstory to that name, and I'm just sticking with it. So either way.
Wait. Now I need to know what the backstory is. Shortened TLDR version.
As quick as I can do it. Okay. I was in a Magic server. This was before CDH. We were in a Magic server where we were all doing like how his like legendary creatures are like, Wayne, whatever else sort of thing. So mine was Wayne, Blade of Boros. And I accidentally set it to my overall Discord name instead of just the server setting, right? And then I started showing up on other people's servers like that. And at first I was kind of like, ooh, I should change that. It's a little cringe. And then a big part of me was like, you know what? Screw it. Like, I'm a big believer
just
that
lean into it.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Like I'm a big believer that cringe is a word that people weaponize to make people feel inauthentic and feel bad about who they really are. So anytime I feel like, ooh, I'm going to be cringe, like, no. This is just what I think it's cool. I'm going to run with it,
Awesome. Well, we are so glad to have you on the podcast. You have been in the comments of the podcast for a very, very long amount of time. So we really appreciate your support throughout these almost 100 episodes.
Oh my gosh.
That there's been. We're getting close to the 100th mark. Yeah. But thank you so much for coming on the podcast today, Wayne. Just go ahead and tell the community a little bit about yourself and just where you're at in the CEDH sphere.
I am basically exclusively trying to make Zirda the Boros equipment work in CDH. A lot of people know me from playing Zirda the Dawnwaker. I've been putting up a couple good results there. And outside of that, I am helping Zach Adler with his YouTube channel, Bite Sized Magic. And yeah, I've been editing for them and helping them with that content and just like really trying to promote. A reason why I really like your guys' show is that I feel like you guys are promoting a lot of really good, vibes, but also mentality and also just providing something to the CDH community that isn't just no shade against just breakdowns and deck techs and gameplay videos, but like more talking into the social aspect of it, the strategy aspect of it. It's something that I really value a lot more. And I just want more of that stuff out there. So that's why I listen to you guys all the time, just like a card consideration, outside of just exactly. It's cool stuff, just more of that stuff and trying to do more of that.
Well, we really appreciate that. I'm really excited to get started with a card that you presented to us in some early DMs where this card, as long as, and a couple other cards were mentioned. And there was one card in particular that stood out to me personally. And I'm so thrilled for us to be reviewing this card today. Wayne, why don't you go ahead and read off your card that you're bringing to us?
Okay. The card is Damping Sphere. It is a 2 colorless artifact that says if a land is tapped for 2 or more mana, it produces 1 colorless instead of any other type and amount. Each spell a player casts costs 1 more to each cast for each other spell that player has cast this turn. It's a Thran thing in the flavor text. For layman's term, the way that I like to describe this, it says turns off Cradles, and it's a personalized Storm Tax. It's a very easy way for people to grok that point. Personalized Storm Tax.
Interesting. All right. Well, that is Damping Sphere, colloquially known in the Pacific Northwest meta as Wet Rock. So if I refer to this card as Wet Rock at any point in time, listeners, everyone in the PNW meta, or at least a good crew of us, call Damping Sphere Wet Rock because it's a damp rock.
I like it.
It's just a wet rock,
We should only refer to it like that because I want the thing that taxi is synonymous with. Like that's the thing. When I travel around,
Taxi
one day,
slang.
like
You're like, yo, wet rock is hot, but we
that
can't
would be
take that. We
great.
can't claim that. It's part of the.
No, sure.
It's like it's the PNW scene. You know, I didn't create the wet rock,
You
but I'm
didn't,
leaning
but we're
into
gonna
the
help
wet rock.
proliferate it.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll start calling it. That sounds cool. The thing that makes me laugh about this card a lot of times is everybody pronounces it dampening sphere because
That's what I want to call it. That was my first
Yeah.
comment. That was going to be my first comment. I want to
Exactly.
call it dampening sphere so much
because it
But
makes
it's
sense.
dampening.
Like, yeah, verbiage wise, it makes sense.
Yeah, like an audio dampening
Mhm.
kind of
Yeah.
thing, but it's
Yeah.
really not. It's just
damping
making things wet.
sphere.
Yeah.
It's just wet rock.
It's wet rock.
Yeah.
The picture, I have no idea what's up with the picture either. I don't know. It's cool. It's cool. I like it a lot.
Very alien-esque.
Yeah.
Ooh, yeah. It kind of reminds me. What is that movie? Arrival? Is that the one where like
Yes.
the artwork is just like
so good.
Arrival is just wet rock. Everybody.
Great movie. Great movie.
And before we get any further, I'll just say that Wayne has elected to have me be the ally for Damping Sphere, and Ya is going to be playing the devil's advocate against the card. All right, Ya, let's get into statistics for Wet Rock, aka Damping Sphere.
Okay. This card sees a lot of play as far as Moxield is concerned. But besides hearing it talked about in forums and whatnot, I don't know if I've ever seen it actually played.
What?
Maybe once.
I've played this against you, Ya.
Once. Just once.
In Italian.
Recently. Yeah, just once recently. So not even like that serious. Like you lost that game.
Whoa. Okay.
Shots fired
Okay.
early.
Okay.
Shots fired real early.
Yeah.
But it does actually see play in about 3.8% of the meta. Like before you filter down, it's seeing play in about 603 decks altogether. But when we do our typical filter down past down to 64 players or more, we only see 133 decks running this.
In the last 3 months.
In the last 3 months.
Always got to remind you, Ya.
Yep. In the last 3 months, I even have it in my notes. In the last 3 months, it also has seen 28 cuts. So 28 decks have made the top cuts with this card.
Nice.
And then we have one, and this is a first. This is an actual first. We have one winner that included Damping Sphere or Wet Rock in their list. And they're sitting with us today.
Congratulations, Wayne.
Congratulations, Wayne.
It was
What
a while
tournament was
ago.
that?
I think we're talking. This is probably
It was within the last 3 months.
Birdcage 4, I think. Yeah.
Okay.
We're still getting congrats on that one. Eventually, it'll fade in the distance. You got to win another one. It's all good. But yes, that one was a fun one.
Well, our statistics cover every 3 months, or the past 3 months. So you just have to win a tournament every 3 months.
Every quarter.
Wayne.
Yeah,
That's
once a
it.
quarter.
Yeah, once
That's
a quarter, you
doable.
just
Yeah.
gotta bink a tournament with 64 plus players. It's that easy, folks.
Yeah, no, that was a good one.
Yeah, which other decks are we seeing besides Zirda, obviously, that are playing Damping Sphere in tournament play?
I just saw your note. I think you added this. So we see this in Magda, which makes sense. Arkham Daxon, Cisse, Talion, a Yuriko deck. All of these make sense. And then underneath what I know I wrote, there was a Kinnan exclamation point question mark.
Yeah.
One person,
Yo,
and they're trying to convert, or they're converting people. That's pretty hot.
Yeah.
yes. There is one Kinnan who there's like a sprinkle of like 30 to 40 plus player tournaments. And there's a Kinnan who has gotten a couple of top cuts with it. So I'm just gonna throw it in there. Okay.
Yeah, I mean that makes sense. Any deck that can like comfortably run Trinisphere or even consider Trinisphere, like Damping Sphere is kind of like Trinisphere's like little
Mhm.
brother, and in tangentially like side grading a little bit, you know. So that makes
Yeah.
total sense to me.
Yeah, I think the most interesting one in this list. I mean, I also, I don't know if you noticed, I wrote Talion in this list because I play it in my Talion list, but I also don't play my Talion list in tournaments because I only play Corvold. But I've been thinking about it a lot more, and I might bring Italian at some point. But I only have one tournament ever with Talion registered, and I'm pretty sure I went like 3 draws, 2 losses, or something like that. And it was
Which
like
sounds
really
about
early.
right.
Yeah, sounds about right for Talion. Oh, but yeah, I think the one that was most like shocking to me was Yuriko, and seeing a Yuriko make a top cut with Damping Sphere. And maybe that's not surprising, but it kind of just depends on the build of Yuriko that you're playing. It just seems a little like attrition-y. And I feel like if you're on the attrition-y game plan, I guess I just don't see as much like attrition-y Yuriko as I see like a attrition-y Talion. That's what I'll say.
Yeah,
Most of the Yuriko's players I play against are more like turbo focused. But That's the only thing that kind of like really stood out to me. Other than that, Wayne, do you see any lists that kind of stood out to you on that list?
I mean, Arkham Daxam just top 16s on Fishbowl,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
So, but I think what's on this list makes a whole bunch of sense. We'll get into like the pros and cons of the card, but like these all line up with exactly like the kinds of decks that you want to be playing this card in, you know?
Yeah. And when I think of this card, the first thing that I think of is Magda. So and that is by far the deck that we see most top cuts with that plays this the most. Is Magda. So that one does not surprise me one bit. Sisay was kind of interesting as well. Just
Yeah.
I personally don't see it in a lot of Sisay lists, or I haven't played against it in a lot of Sisay lists, but there are a lot of slower stacks based deafening silence Sisay type decks. And it's kind of close to deafening silence in that way of just trying to slow your opponents down without stopping your thing. So I get that as well. But cool. All right, Wayne, are you ready to take us into our points for Damping Sphere?
Yeah.
And I also kind of like to get a little sprinkle of what are you trying to accomplish with this? Are you trying to convince people that are in these decks that we've mentioned to like more people who pilot these decks to consider it in those decks? Or are you trying to, really petition to get people to play it outside of those decks that we listed? So I'll hand it over to you.
That's a really good question, actually. Like I for me, coming onto the podcast is like one, a huge dream, but then also like a real big concern of like, man, I remember I suggested Disruptor Flute and you guys did that episode and I was like, great, that's awesome. And then you guys did Weathered Wayfarer. And then I think there's another, did you guys do Fomori Vault? I think,
yes,
right?
we did Fomori Vault. That was recommended by Mike from the Howling Salt Mine. Shout out Mike.
And I'm sitting here going like, these guys are blowing up all my tech. Come on, like please stop looking at my lands and stop looking. Anyways, so there's a little bit of like not fear, but like kind of like, oh man, if I start talking about certain cards on like these things, but it's fine. It's part of what it is. What we're really trying to accomplish with this card specifically is, especially currently right now with the Send It meta or the turbo meta, everything's trying to be faster and faster. The important part about playing stacks and the important part about engaging with like linchpin stacks pieces is they need to be cheap and they need to be dropped early. Otherwise they kind of do nothing, or they kind of like once you get into the grind plan, especially for the grindier decks, they're going to be able to like you're just playing into their hands. And a lot of times Damping Sphere is a little bit of a separate case because we started teching this thing in back in the mid-range hell when it was Rog Thras every other pot. So this started off when I was looking at it as anti-Cradle hate, especially, right?
Okay.
And it still does that perfectly fine. I have a box where I basically hold on to every single stacks piece I can run in any given at any given point. Specifically because I'm a big believer that it shouldn't just be like this stacks piece will be good forever. Stack should always be meta dependent and should be a meta call.
Preach, right? Wayne. Yes. Agreed.
Like, that is why, like, yeah, anyways, I won't get too farther into that, but yeah, each is like, there's a world where Damping Sphere comes out of my list. There's a world where like a lot of these comes out of my list, but currently right now, ironically, Damping Sphere specifically was put in for the Cradle hate, but also the anti-storm side still also works for the current meta. So that's the reason why it's still in my list right now, is that it can hurt Mentales, it can hurt Rogsai, it can hurt Rouse. Rouse a little bit harder because they can usually make a lot of mana, but it definitely makes that math a lot harder.
For sure.
Yeah, and that's the really good like point one for this thing is you can drop it real early. The ironic thing is that you can drop it with an Ancient Tomb, but then it turns off your Ancient Tomb, but it's not to give,
it's a small price to pay.
Exactly, right? Exactly. And then you get a Damping Sphere turn 1 or turn 2 and just watch the table like start like Windows screen loading, like pinwheeling, just like, oh, I have to think about everything constantly. So that's point one is low drop stacks piece that hits on in. The cool thing about Damping Sphere is that it hits on two different directions. It is the Cradle hate, it is the Ancient Tomb hate, it's the City of Traders hate, but it is also anti-storm. So point 100, just right off the bat.
And don't forget the Mishra's Workshop hate for all the Zul'Dok players out there.
Yes. But that's what always hurts though, is like, all right, my workshop cast Damping Sphere and then immediately my workshop is turned off. So like it takes a little bit of like playing through. Another fun fact, your Mishra's Workshop, when you tap it under a Damping Sphere, that mana is still only able to be used to cast artifacts.
Yes.
Just fun fact.
So it gets even worse. Now
exactly,
it's not
right?
only restricted to artifacts, but it's now restricted because it's only one.
Yeah, you could at least help me pseudo color fix my guy. Come on, work with me. But yeah, so.
Oh, that's a fun point. So your first point just being, hey, it being a 2-cost stacks piece makes it so relevant where it is right now. And I you did kind of stifle yourself a little bit and say you didn't want to talk about your opinion on how stacks pieces should really shift with the meta. But I kind of want to touch on that. Sure. So the thought process here with this one is that I love that you originally teched against Cradle and then found yourself also being like, this stacks piece that I teched in to stop Rock Dress, it just happens to be a positive externality that it's now hitting all these other lists. Mm-hmm. So I'll give you the floor. Is there any other lists that you've been seeing recently besides the ones that you just listed where you're like, this thing does work against those lists?
I mean, just literally every deck. Anything that wants to cast anything is like immediately the math is a lot harder, and immediately your rollout is just that much worse. Like Damping Sphere alone can stretch a game to turn 4, 5, 6 very, very easily. Yeah. Blue Farm hates it, like Rogside hates it. Just like every deck that needs to cast anything is just immediately the math is a lot harder. And a point in terms of like stacks mentality, right? My whole thing with stacks is I look at stacks pieces and I need to see that I can break parity on it better than other people can.
Yeah.
That's the only way that stacks doesn't slow you, like is worth it, where you slows everybody else down. It doesn't slow you down that much. Occasionally Damping Sphere will get in my way a little bit too, but it's kind of like pros cons. It's been more on the pros side because my deck does not storm very much. It's like 3 pieces and then all of a sudden I'm breaking parity with infinite mana. Like easy, Yeah. So yeah, same thing. I guess Kinnan is probably, but even then, like it's harder for them to drop the rocks. It's harder for them to do the rock chaining and stuff like that. So yeah, if they care about the stack, if they care about casting things, then yeah, this is good against them too.
Great. All right, yeah. Any downside or rebuttal to the first point that Wayne brought?
No, there's nothing I can really say that against a really well costs stacks piece, right? Like 2 is we've had this discussion a lot. It's just in that real sweet spot, right? Like any more and you're any less and you're like, this is just too good, right? But any more, and I think like even one more generic, right? At 3 costs, it becomes that much worse. 2 is like really hard to argue against. Like it's well cost. Yeah. You get to tap that Ancient Tomb one last time for 2 mana, ping yourself there to cast this, right? Like you get that one.
Wayne low-key embedded the rebuttal into their point by saying you cast it with Ancient Tomb and then immediately turn off your Ancient Tomb. That is the rebuttal to it.
It'll still ping you for 2 damage.
You'll still take 2 damage
for 1 damage or for one
it's
mana.
Still ouchie.
But, so it's efficient, I think. I think it's really efficient.
Awesome. All right, Wayne, what's your second point for Wet Rock?
Wet Rock, I really like that it's an artifact. And that's like almost the entire second point.
And not like an enchantment, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Which is the other common.
Yeah. The reason why is because if you look at all the decks that are playing it, the Wet Rock is also just material for other things in it. My deck specifically, you can weld it and you can engineer it, and it becomes like, it becomes fodder that can loop up into 3 drops or anything out of the graveyard. I can get rid of it a lot easier than other people can. Being able to remove your stacks pieces, I think, is a super underrated thing that people don't consider. If I'm holding back somebody from interacting, I want to be able to either crack my Vexing Bubble or get rid of my Damping Sphere if it's really stopping someone.
Yeah.
So the fact that it's an artifact that integrates with the rest of the deck is huge. So even in like, say, Kinnan, they can transmute this into a Basalt if they need to.
Yep.
So like that's literally it. It's just subtype, artifact, huge. Like a lot easier.
Are you also on KCI?
I'm not on KCI loops.
Okay.
I don't make enough artifacts for that to make sense, but like exactly. So
but the decks that do could absolutely chomp the Damping Sphere to make 2 mana. We love that.
The cool thing about chomping stuff is people will, once they get into a game, they'll get into a rhythm of like, okay, everybody's going to have to do this. Everybody's going to have to do this. And then you get to your turn and you're like, all right, cool, I'm not doing it anymore. And they're like, wait, what? And you're like, yeah. I'm getting rid of it and I'm just going to go. And they're like, wait, and they have to like reconsider everything. But yeah, you were saying?
Yeah, no, I was just going to say the cool thing about it being an artifact that is specifically a static effect artifact is that you can consider it in like a mono green list that could play Collector Oof. So you could technically shut down artifacts, but this one, it doesn't have an activated ability. It's just going to sit there and still do the thing. So it's still an effective artifact into the anti-artifact tech pieces or with the anti-artifact tech pieces, which is a fringe benefit, I would say.
and also just like in terms of like my colors and stuff, tutorable, way more tutorable
For
than
sure.
everything else, right?
For
So
sure.
like just yeah, artifacts are good. I like artifacts. I recently started realizing that I'm pretty sure I'm never going to make a CDH deck that can't play Mishra's Workshop. Like that's just been a thing that I realized. I've built a couple other decks that are like all, and they're all artifacts decks, and that I like that
All
apparently.
right, so I should really put you onto my KCI Corvold build. That's
Sure.
like 30 artifacts, and then you could do the thing.
Yeah. Colorless is a very powerful half color. There's a lot of work you can do with it.
For sure. All right. What's your third point?
So the third point is essentially breaking parity on this. I have in here silence effects. I've literally used this card as a silence effect before, where if you're paying close enough attention and you're watching everybody's mana and they're casting stuff and they're interacting, you can find really cool windows where you're like, okay, you can no longer cast a force will because you don't have mana. You can no longer do this. You can no longer do this. I think I'm going to try to flash speed on top here, and that it operates as a silence effect in that way. But ultimately, what this point is breaking parity. So same thing with like the Kinnan list. If you're making more mana and you can move, like if you're moving 0.75 speed and everybody else is moving 0.25 speed, you're still going faster than everybody else. You know what I mean?
Yeah, if you can just power through the wet rock. If you don't care about the wet rock,
Yeah.
then yeah.
If you don't care about getting a little wet, then you're all
Yeah,
good.
exactly. Kinnan's got the raincoat on.
Yeah, exactly, right? So specifically in Magda, like they don't care about casting stuff. Specifically in Zirda, like once I hit infinite mana, like this thing is adding
Oh no.
one extra thing. Oh no.
Oh no.
Yeah,
I have
oh,
infinite
no.
mana. I have to pay for extra wet rock.
Yeah, it's yeah, exactly. So like and again that just I think that goes to an overall oeuvre about like if you are going to be running stacks pieces in your guys' decks, those are kind of the qualities you want to be looking for. Is it tutorable? Is it synergize with the rest of my list? And how can I break parity on it? Right?
Yeah, and just to add on to your note about breaking parity, specifically in Magda and any deck that's able to tutor artifacts to the board, ooh, you have a really awesome synergy with Damping Sphere in that scenario.
Yeah.
Because if you get to a point where it's deep in the stacks battle, and people are like, no matter what you pull from this Magda, I'm gonna have an answer to it. I have 30 cards in hand, and then you just put a wet rock out there, and they go, wait a minute.
Yeah.
How much does my thing cost?
What?
How much do all my free spells cost? I thought they were free.
you get to do the hey, what's storm count real quick? Yeah, and they're like, why do you care? And you're like, well, we'll find out. No, that's a really good point.
Are there any other effects that we really see in CEDH that give artifact tutor to boards?
Magda.
Besides Magda.
Oswald.
Oswald.
Yes.
Oswald Fiddlebender. Yep, absolutely. That's a good one. And I did see, notably, I at least saw one list when we were doing our statistics here where an Oswald plays Damping Sphere that has hit a top cut in, I think 32 plus player tournaments. I don't know if I saw one in 64, but correct me if I'm wrong. Oswald player, if you top cut with Damping Sphere, aka Wet Rock, in your list in the 64 player tournament plus, comment down below.
I love Oswald lists. They're so cool. Like,
yeah.
Well,
again, with the addition of Peter Parker's camera, I mean, Oswald stonks way up.
Listen, I'm currently testing PP Cam. If
oh my god, I've never heard that before in my life.
Gosh.
We like giving names to her. So like my portable hole is like I'll show you my hole. Like hey, I'm gonna show you my gosh. That sort of stuff.
Love it.
The difference between Wet Rock for Damping Sphere and PP Cam for Peter Parker's camera. Night and day, folks. Yes. Night and day.
We're still talking about Magic cards.
Yes, we are. I'm currently testing that one, and if it stays in the list long enough, I would happily go to bat for that card on a later episode because I've had to defend that card to a lot of people, even to myself. To be fair,
shout out all the Oswald players who are in love with PP Cam and Wet Rock.
Yeah, Wet Rock. There you go.
All right. Did you have any other points that you wanted to bring to the table, Wayne?
This is the other thing about stacks too is, and especially with Damping Sphere is, they're very hard to evaluate because the things that they're holding back you don't see unless you ask people afterwards and you tell people. Like you grade stack spaces based on how after the match people go, oh, I hate this card. Like that's how you tell whether or not it did its job or not. So just when you're testing these, if you're playing with these things, guys, just something to consider. You never know. Like you might have lost turn 5, but you might have lost turn 3 if you didn't have a Wet Rock out. Just when you're testing.
Absolutely. And If you could just pass the baton on over here, that kind of leads
Yeah.
me into one of my
Yes.
points here. So I'm helping out, given the case for Wet Rock. And one of the things I was thinking about in the stage of just stacks pieces in general, like you said, there are situations where Wet Rock is incredible at stopping a win con. And there's situations where the Wet Rock is not great at stopping a win con, right? Like if we think about it, just the idea that this card as a stacks piece drastically affects breach lines way more than a Thassa's Oracle Demonic Consultation line, right?
Yeah.
You might think to yourself, and I see this all the time in our comments whenever we talk about stacks pieces or interruption. Oh, well, it doesn't stop Thassa's Oracle Demonic. Like, I'm still going to get Thassa's Decon to turn 3 or whatever with this card, right? Yeah, sure, that could happen to you. But at the end of the day, you should be teching your stacks pieces against consistency. What you're going to be seeing a lot of. And Underworld Breach is something that you see in almost every deck, right?
Yep.
And just because a deck runs Thassa's Oracle Demonic Consultation doesn't mean you shouldn't be playing a stacks piece, because that other line that they have in their back pocket, that Breach line, you could be affecting that line, and they could not have access to Thassa's Oracle's Demonic Consultation. So even though, sure, they might have an out against you, half of their deck or their 1B plan is still going to get cut out. And you can't know that information, and especially they can't know that you have that as well. So when you're mulliganing for this, if they're mulliganing for an early intuition pile for a breach win, and you have Wet Rock, great, you've shut them down completely. Even though it's a deck that has access to other ways out, you still shut them down. So because there's such a high density of decks that run breach and the other thing that this thing doesn't stop as much, it still makes it more difficult. Don't get me wrong. I mean, Thoracle Console is still a lot harder at a higher mana rate, but still.
Especially if you have to defend it over and over and over again.
Exactly. So just because there is such a large Venn diagram of win cons that aren't as affected that much with win cons that are absolutely affected a lot by Damping Sphere, I think it's something that you can consider. As my first fringe point.
What you just said ignited a thought in my head also that I forgot to mention is, since it's personalized storm tax, it really disincentivizes pushing, because now you are having to pay extra for each time you have to defend your thing, and each one of us can just send one thing at you and we don't have to pay that tax, so it just like more specific on that one. Just one extra thing that immediately was like, oh yeah, that's right, this other thing. Cool.
The manual storm into a Damping Sphere gets just so tough. And I can say that anecdotally speaking as well, as a Corvold player who has tried pushing through a Damping Sphere. And it's possible. Don't get me wrong. There's certain scenarios where, you just have the absolute nuts and you're able to create just an insane amount of mana and you're able to pay through the Damping Sphere until you can remove the Damping Sphere and then you're free and clear. Sure, that happens. But at the same time, the likelihood of that happening and the number of times that I have found myself doing that versus getting stuffed by that, few and far between. It's like I can count on one hand the number of times where I was like, damn, I was able to power through that Damping Sphere versus the number of times I went, shit, I cannot win through this Damping Sphere.
Yeah, 100%.
Night and day. My next fringe point that I wanted to add is kind of ties back to your original point when you're talking about being able to deploy it early. It's just really an addition to this point, because if we dive deeper into how effective that is, if you're turn 1 on the play and you're able to Ancient Tomb, Wet Rock, even though, yes, you're shutting off your own Ancient Tomb, you're delaying that Rhystic study from your opponent, potentially. On that turn 1 play especially. So if that seat 2 person had this idea of, oh, I'm going to play my land, play my rock, tap my rock and my land for the Rhystic study, they can't do that anymore.
No, they cannot.
And if you can't do that anymore, because the likelihood of multiple other people drawing cards off of that Rhystic study in those next rounds, so, I'm maybe doing a weird job of describing this, but you play turn 1 Wet Rock, your opponent who kept a turn 1 Rhystic study now doesn't have the ability to do that until they can deploy it turn 2. Seat 3, seat 4, and then back to you. You deploy something that's potentially 3 to 5 card draws that that Rhystic player has now missed out on. And that really, really effective turn 1 mulligan for that turn 1 Rhystic becomes way less potent. So that's just kind of what I'm trying to say.
No, yeah, you're absolutely right. Something like static abilities, like stacks pieces and all the rest of it, it's like mana. It exponentiates throughout the game. So if you manage to get this out like turn 1 or turn 2, turn 3, turn 4, turn 5 are all affected by this. So if someone goes turn 1 Soul Ring, that exponentiates mana-wise, ramping outwards for the rest of the game.
Yes.
If you go turn 1 Deafening Silence, turn 1 Damping Sphere, then exactly what you're describing, the cascading effect of someone not being able to develop that Rhystic study turn 1 and get the 3 extra cards that they would have gotten off that, it just cascades from there.
For sure. But yeah, that's my fringe point, is just it can really affect directly how people mulligan. It almost attacks on that third axis of like, not only are we attacking storm turns or the storm players, not only are we attacking the cradle players, but we're also attacking how people fundamentally mulligan their deck.
Mhm.
I think that is super, super interesting, and something that we don't really talk about a lot, is how a card can specifically target how people mulligan. Kind of interesting.
Absolutely. 100%. I love that you're bringing points that I didn't even. I was like extra levels. I love this. It's great.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you have any thoughts on that?
I mean, I think that your point is, the card that you're saying that people talking about Rhystic Study, right? Like that is a card that does change how people fundamentally mulligan, right? Like that,
Yeah.
The difference is like now, like, and this is like the whole turn order, like the person that was supposed to be like seat 2 somehow got like is in seat 1 and they get the Rhystic Study down, right? And then you deploy your Damping Spirit, your Wet Rock, right? Like that can also really just, it still will slow down most likely the card draw that person will get, but still, depending on where you are in seat order, I think does matter as well, right? In terms of like when you want to get this down, and whether or not it makes sense to get it down, because you could have effectively slowed down being to seat 2. You could have effectively already slowed down more so like seat 3 and 4.
Yeah.
When they're already at a disadvantage, and seat 1 got a easy turn 1 Rhystic, right?
Yeah.
That kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Or,
I have a
fish.
Interesting rebuttal to your rebuttal, and then I'll have a rebuttal to my own rebuttal of your rebuttal.
Yeah.
You ready for this?
Sure.
The rebuttal to the rebuttal is that there could be a world where if there's a Rhystic and a Damping Sphere out, you could argue that your opponent's going to get more cards off the Rhystic because people are less inclined to pay the tax for Rhystic, because they're more inclined to pay the Damping Sphere tax in order to play the game. They're going to say,
right.
Dang, I just want to play my card. You can draw your card because I'm mad because I can't play my card because I have to pay the Damping Sphere tax,
Yeah.
So there is a world where the Rhystic player over time is going to gain more cards because less people are paying. That being said, that can get outweighed by the fact that people are less inclined or physically unable to just full send punt into the Rhystic Study.
Yeah.
That's my point.
And because in those scenarios, like, you are physically unable to continue to cast spells into the Rhystic Study, whether you're paying or not. So there's an argument to be made both sides. It kind of just depends on the composition of the decks that are playing against this particular board state, I guess you would say. But that being said, I wouldn't normally get into the importance of one particular board state, but because Rhystic is such a meta-defining card. Exactly. Right. It's like you might as well just talk about mulligans, because the likelihood of a Rhystic being in your deck and the likelihood of someone mulliganing is probably the same.
So, no, for sure. I mean, this also just is also definitively true about every stacks piece as well. Like, Ya's point is very valid. It really depends, and that's what makes them bad in that way, where it's silver bullets, and it might not apply to the situation. If anything, maybe it makes the situation worse, and that's where your pilot discretion comes in.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. And my last fringe point for Wet Rock is something that I wrote down initially in my notes as a fringe point. Then I realized I was wrong, or at least I'm 90% sure I was wrong, but I'm going to explain it to the class anyway. So I was looking at this card, and I'm calling the rules lawyer. I think I know the answer to this. I think this doesn't work this way because of a rule, and I'll explain here. So I was looking at the card Badger Mole Cub, which is coming out in the Avatar set, right? So Badger Mole Cub is 1 and a green.
Highly anticipated, yeah.
For a 2/2 creature. When it enters Earthbend 1, which means target land you control becomes a 0/0 creature with haste. It's still a land. Put a 1/1 counter on it. If it dies or is exiled, return it to the battlefield tapped. And then Badger Mole Cub also has another ability. Whenever you tap a creature for mana, add an additional green. So my point was going to be that it shuts down Badger Mole Cub because the creature land that you're putting into play, notably a creature and a land, when it taps, it would tap for 2, but I actually don't think it stops it, because I think it's the Badger Mole Cub giving the land the ability, or the Badger Mole Cub is what is producing the green, not the extra green, not the land. I'm putting myself in a mental pretzel here, but I went deeper into this.
Somebody's going to tell us.
Yeah, I went deeper into it because I was like really wondering, like, is this like, I don't know if that works. Wild Growth has a ruling.
Right.
That says the enchantment is what is creating the additional mana, not the land explicitly. So if we
Yes.
go off the wild growth ruling, then and
Oh,
it matches
yeah.
the Badger Mole Cub, then I don't think Wet Rock would.
This is like
affect
Kinnan.
it.
Yeah.
Right? Like this is like
Yes.
Kinnan
Yeah.
because it's saying whenever you tap it for this, you add one more of this. And so
Yes.
it's a triggered ability that is
Doesn't live with the land, but it wouldn't be a land. You know what I mean?
it's not a
That's
land.
why
Yeah,
a little
it's a
different than
triggered
Kinnan,
ability
but it's not.
because
Yeah.
whenever, it's a whenever. So yeah.
Yeah, you guys are 100% right on this one. It's a replacement effect versus trigger effect type of thing. So Damping Sphere will turn off Nyx Bloom, tripling
Right.
mana on a land, but yeah, Kinnan can
Correct.
play through just fine.
Yeah, but Kinnan will
Interesting.
still get its extra 1 pip from non-land
Yes.
things being tapped.
Yes,
Right.
yes,
Badger
yes.
Mole Cub is still broken. That's a good card, by the way. We don't have to do a
Yeah.
podcast on that, but I think that the card's gonna be really good.
I'm so worried about some of these avatar cards, man. Like,
oh no,
some-
we
like,
could do we
oh,
would do a whole podcast on those. We're not gonna get into that. No.
Yeah.
That's not us.
We're
Yeah.
too deep. We're too deep. But as this Fringe point, because even though my Fringe point was wrong, and we found that out, or at least we're 99% sure, judges in the comments will let us know.
Yep.
There is a world where, like you said, Wayne, there are things that do make lands tap for more mana inherently. So if there is some sort of effect that makes your land tap for more mana, Wet Rock would affect those. What are
Correct.
those things? Apparently, Nyx Blue mentioned. I don't know the
Yeah.
other ones, but I don't know if there's other in CEDH that actually are relevant. But hey, if they print more things coming up, it could be even more effective. And I love a card that gets better with more potential printings and not worse with more potential printings.
True,
That's
true,
all I'm
true.
saying.
100%.
All right, those are our points. Yeah, I think we did a great job. We're pretty deep into the podcast already, so yeah, we're ready to hear the downsides. Let's hear it. Why shouldn't people consider Wet Rock, aka Damping Sphere?
My hard part is I also want to give some some downsides as well.
No,
but
at
we'll
the
let
end
you
you
guys
definitely
go.
can.
Yeah,
At the end,
yeah.
you definitely can.
The whole point
for
is
sure.
to try to get people to just start thinking about the cards, right? And
Yes,
so
yeah.
I think the biggest thing about this card is unfortunately the same thing for any kind of stacks of piece. If you sit down and it's Rogzai, Atali, Roush, Sweet, this card is gas, right?
Mhm.
This is awesome. But early rounds and like Swiss, or if you're just in your like casual friend pod, like this card can be really weird because let's say your friend wants to play Time, Magda, Sisse, right? And that's the pod you sit down with. They're like, sweet, right? Like it does affect us, but we can also really appreciate this. And I think the worst case scenario is you sit down with like a Blue Farm or like a Rogzai for sure, a Kinnan list, and a Magda, right? Like those two, yes, you guys have shut down Rogzai, but like that Magda list is feeling pretty good. Like I remember
sure.
a couple times when I've had somebody play, like they were a mono red deck as well, or something like that, and they decided to play a turn 1, turn 2 Blood Moon.
Mhm.
As a Magda player, it just won me the game. Like that move won me the game because I didn't care, right? And so what I really appreciate about what Wayne was talking about earlier is their point about you do have to, what I think I like about stacks is you just have to be so keenly aware of what the meta is, right? And that's really important. You have to know and really understand what are people trying to do.
And the pod composition, right? Not even just the meta.
Yes.
It's specifically the pod composition, because this is a punt card. If it's like
Into the
everyone
wrong
at the
pod?
table
Yes,
into
into the
a
wrong pod.
Magda, and the Magda's like, sick, I play Damping Sphere too. You know how many times I've heard that as Italian player when I play like a Curse Totem or something like that, and then someone else at the table's like, yeah, I play that too. The card's so good. I'm like, that's not what I wanted to hear, because
Right,
now
'cause
I
they're
know
not
that
gonna
my
be
stacks
affected.
piece is asymmetrically affecting my opponents, and some of them are like totally vibing out with the fact that I just put 2 mana into this and set back my own Ancient Tomb, whereas my other opponents aren't happy at all.
Yeah, 100%. I will sit down at a table, and if there is a stacks deck, I'll look at them and be like, all right, cool. As long as it's not Oof or No Rod, I'm not gonna worry about stacks. You got it, buddy. I'll worry them fast. You know?
Do you specifically hold up, like if you had a Damping Sphere in your hand and there's like a Magda at the table or a stack deck, would you not deploy the piece?
Because, well, it depends. Because if it depends on what needs to be shut down, right?
Yeah.
So if Magda's shutting down one axis and it's the same axis as Damping Sphere, then great. Magda's got it covered. But even then, maybe you're worried about Blue Farm having a bounce spell or something like that. So it's not, it's always context, right? It's always ifs and buts, because Cedh is complicated. But like, yeah, it can, y'all's point is 100% valid. it's hard. It's hard to, and it's always contextual based, and it requires a lot of meta knowledge. It requires a lot of meta knowledge.
Yeah.
Like why I think this card is so good in a hand of a pilot like Wayne is I have now played a handful of games with Wayne, and Wayne is just highly aware, right? Like they're not wrong. Like they're sitting and counting your mana better than I understand my mana. I was like, oh yeah, you're right. I don't have enough mana for this. Like because like they've already done the math, right? It takes a player to play stacks and play stacks well, or play a piece like this. You do have to be really aware of what your game plan is and what the other person's game plan is, and then how do you stay ahead of that, and then when is the right time to start, like I need to get rid of this, right? Like I've started playing Vexing Bauble as an example in
love Vexing Bauble,
but you know I've also made sure that I never deploy that unless I know for sure I can get rid of it the same turn, right? To just get something down that I want, or leave mana up, right? I have to leave mana up because that'll lose the game.
Yes.
If I pass and have zero way of cracking it. And so this is one of those, I think it's great until you
punt.
It's great until it's not. It's great until it's not. Yeah.
You have to be like Kyle put it best. You have to be aware of the meta, the meta of the pod specifically.
Yeah, the pod composition.
Yeah.
Yeah, the meta choice is like something that we make when we decide to put it in our deck, and that's totally fine. I think that if you're making a choice to put it in your deck, that's okay. Yeah. But when you sit down at the pod, it's having the knowledge or having the strength, honestly, to not cast the card when it's going to lose you the game. Because that's the hardest thing. Sometimes you have to land pass instead of play your damping sphere and feel like you're doing things and quote playing the game, as people like to say. Sometimes it's better to not play the game because you're going to throw the game if you do so.
That's so real.
It's a great point. Yeah, it's a great point.
Playing stacks is like jazz. Sometimes it's about the notes that you don't play.
Oh, I love it.
Ooh, the silence.
Yeah.
Great. All right. Yeah. What's your next downside?
The next downside for this is, all right, you've decided you want to play this, but you're not really one of these decks that we mentioned. Like, I think that we don't see this card more because that first time this does disrupt your own plan, right? Right. Like, it's like the probably the last time you, like, this is the first card you boot again, right? You're like,
yeah,
man, I was short just one pip, right? Or you do that twice to yourself and you're like, I just needed that Ancient Tomb, and you're not a deck that can effectively crunch this, right? Like, a Timna Dargo. Dargo could play this, right? Timna Dargo can play because Dargo can go kick one out. I'm gonna nom this, right? I'm gonna just,
if anything, it's ramp,
right? You pay 2 mana to reduce Dargo's cost later on, right? Because it can just eat it. If you're not one of those decks, you really have to just not, like, you really have to be able to play around this, right? And have
it's a risk.
Very asymmetrical for you. Like Lumra could, maybe, I don't know how like often Lumra's casting spells, but like
depends on setup. But
right, depends on setup.
No, this is a super good point. No, this is 100% true, and there are definitely times where you trip yourself up on accident.
Yeah, and you're like, I'm 1 mana short. I could win this game if this Wet Rock wasn't on my board. Why is this Wet Rock? And you're gonna be looking for like, if you lose the game, then you're gonna be looking for reasons to be like, or explanations for yourself, and you're like, and you don't. That's the other thing though. Is the rebuttal to that is you don't know if you would have lost on a previous turn because you affected someone else's play.
Yeah,
very true.
Yeah.
So the Wet Rock may have already saved your life multiple times, but you don't know it. But the one time that it stops you from winning the game, you're going to be like, I hate this.
There's a word for that. There's a word for that type of
I don't know.
Is confirmation bias, sunk cost fallacy, one or the other?
Something like that.
Yeah, something like that. The comments will let us know.
Yeah. I think for specifically this point, the one thing that you do have the advantage of in this regard is that you are the one playing the piece. So if you can figure out in 2 to 3 turns, hey, this might become more of a liability than an asset to me, you are then making the EV choice on, do I need it now to not die, or is it good? Like, are we in a position where if I don't play this, we still make it around and it will stop me up for a turn 3 versus a turn 4? You get to make that choice, and it's hard. It's definitely very, very hard. That's why a lot of the times, sometimes I'll be playing games and the longest time that I take is on my own turn, and I'll sit there and I'll think for like a minute or two, and then I'll be like, all right, pass. because it's just like that point of decision making is where that's at, and not everybody's used to that. Everybody's used to like, oh, I can counter something, I can do this, I can do that. With pieces like this, the decision is I'm making a decision turn 2 that is a forecast for turn 4.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
That's a great point. Great rebuttal. All right, yeah. Any final points?
I think that my last point, and you're just gonna walk with me here. So all of the points that you both mentioned earlier that make this card a good card are just almost too specific, right? And that, I think that's what will keep this card pretty fringe and from being quote unquote like universally good.
Yeah.
And this is kind of just like going into Wayne's point about like stacks comes in and out, right? It's the fact that the decks that can play this are just so specific, right?
Yeah.
There are just so not few, because there are plenty, but there are just so many so specific type of deck where you don't really need to cast spells.
Yeah. And that's kind of the flavor of the month too.
Right.
Is to like play decks that don't do this. And for a while, that's why we saw so much Cedh and so much Magda having
They weren't
success.
trying to cast spells.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
So especially if there's new cards printed, we might get into a scenario where there's a lot of decks like that. And to be honest, they're already a big chunk of the color, like not color pie, but they're already a big chunk of the meta. So like you see Cedhs and Magdas in every single tournament. So it is something it's food for thought for sure.
For sure. Yeah. I think the only rebuttal to that is that specifically for Damping Sphere is that, yes, it doesn't fit in every deck, but it does hit a lot of the common win cons. Like it hits Cradle, it hits Breach, it hits a lot of those like the Storm. So it does cover a lot of things. I think it's the only real, like it's like generically not great, but generically good at stopping, right? So it's kind of like the idea.
It also hits Walmart Cradle, aka Growing Rights of Itlamok. Yes. So we got that going for us too.
Yeah.
It hits both cradles. All right, yeah. Any more downsides for this card? Or are we good to go into our favorite points?
Let's go into our favorite points.
All right. Well, yeah, my favorite point of yours is the fact that you can stop yourself with this card. And I've had this happen before when I play Talion. Sometimes I'm like, well, shoot. I had the ability to play the Shieldred and then cast a wheel and kill everybody. But unfortunately, I don't have the mana to do that because that's a lot of mana in Talion, even though we're really late into the game. So it's definitely a downside. And I have looked at that card with anger. A lot of anger on my own board. And when something on your own board causes you anger and frustrations, it's rough. Let me say that. It is rough. Even if you're able to break parity, it can still be difficult. So that's my favorite point of yours. Wayne, what was your favorite point of yours?
I gotta say it's the same one. Like that's just genuinely it. It's like, the amount of times we were like, yeah, this was necessary. We would have lost, but like, me not being able to win right now feels bad. But like, it's a hard beat.
Yeah, for sure. But that's just more of a reason to run things that crunch it in your deck. And it just adds more to the synergy. The more you synergize with the Wet Rock, the more likely you are to not be affected by the Wet Rock. So
you let it slide right off of you.
Exactly. Just become an amphibian. Become the psychic frog. Or let the amphibian downpour hit you. If you're amphibian downpour, you should be not affected by Wet Rock. You should be thriving. You should get a discount on your spells, actually. All right, y'all. What's your favorite point that either Wayne or I brought?
I love the point and like just the idea that for as much as it may screw up your line, right? The point that you guys liked it for mine is you don't know, right? Like how this card was a Superman for you, right? Like how it like kind of like saved you from things falling on you without you knowing it, right? Just because like that wrong side could have been looking at a turn one, literally dump their hand to wheel you all, but this literally stopped it, right? And gets you back to a turn so that you can continue to
have a chance,
right? And,
that you might not want to add. Yeah, exactly.
Right. If you need a card to take you to deep waters, this is a card that'll take you to deep water, right? Even as it drags you down, it will take you there.
Just swim harder, guys. Swim
and
faster.
there are pilots that are really, really confident. You can make the argument if this card pushes you into deep water, there's a lot of pilots that thrive in the deep water games. There's a lot of pilots that love late game CEDH and they feel more comfortable late game CEDH than they do early game CEDH. So if you're a pilot that's thinking to themselves, hey, anytime my games go past 60 minutes, I win, maybe you're a fan of Wet Rock.
Yeah. The nice thing about Wet Rock though is that it's currently fringe enough that people aren't good at Wet Rock math. So
true. They don't know how to swim on the rock.
Yeah, exactly. Right. They'll try lines and they'll realize, oh wait, I'm 3 mana short. Lame. You know?
Yeah. So you have to be a well-versed Wet Rock swimmer. You have to be able to swim on the rock.
Yeah.
Oh, all right. Let's get into the final part, Wayne. Ask Ya the question.
All right, yeah. Have your thoughts changed on Damping Sphere from what we said? Are you convinced that Wet Rock, aka Damping Sphere, is a good card? Question mark.
I actually wrote down my answer here. I wrote it down in
When?
this just like 2 minutes ago.
Okay.
In the 2025 autumn meta, that is this turbo / Rao / Atali filled meta. Yeah, I think this is a good card right now. Right, like especially with that big asterisk of you knowing, like, you also have to know as soon as this meta shifts back towards like a mid-range hell, this is probably not that great, right? It's not as good because that's back when people will just start gathering resources, gathering smothering ties. Right now, when people are playing irresponsibly and you're losing to turn 2 fish, I'm sorry, turn 2 Thoracle stuff, like
Oracle's kind of a fish. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It is kind of a
it's fish-like.
Very aquatic episode we've got.
Yeah.
Run this card. Run this card. Stop the rows. Stop the kill row. Force of will to get Holly.
Yeah.
Right. Like semi-blue, right? They're just trying to.
But this kind of stops semi-blue. They can't get to their big mana.
Right.
They can't get to their big mana. So I actually think it's pretty good into that. But it is really, really bad, specifically against heavy control, like resource generator list, like a Kenrith control list. Like I have literally seen Atlas in our meta see someone play a Wet Rock and go, oh great, and then just
they will love you.
They'll just sit behind their tide. They'll be able to interact. They'll still be able to do their game plan, and then they'll eventually win. Like that is a big downside.
If you play this card and you can think of that one person that will be so happy that you have now seen the light, right? Like of like one spell per turn has Richard Garfield intended. Don't play this card, right? Like that's the person that
no. Yeah, time your games. That's all you need to say. Time your casual games. 80-minute timers for all, especially if you're on Wet Rock.
I mean that's the other thing too, is just playing for a draw. Like whenever I play, I'm usually tournament minded, so like we time games and everything like that. But like even just like sometimes you roll to 3 and you're like, all right, Wet Rock. Let's draw, baby. Let's draw. Let's
save us. It's the same thing with rule of law effects. You're just like, all right, I'm mulliganing deep for a rule of law effect and praying we draw. Oh, well, that was great. Wet Rock, that's a good card. You heard it here, folks. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Wayne. Are you ready for our favorite closing segment? That's a good card, question mark?
I'm going to be so bad at this. It's going to be great. Let's go.
All right, listeners, if you've never played with us before, what we're going to do is we're going to provide Wayne with the name of an obscure Magic the Gathering card, and it's going to be your job as well as Wayne's to guess everything about that card. Color, type, cost, flavor, text, artwork, everything. Go ahead and play along with us in the comments down below or in the Discord with our spoiler tags. All right, Wayne, Yaz got this card cooked up for you. I was thinking about potentially trying to play along too, but to be honest, I'm probably going to look up the card. So you're on your own.
No worries. Totally fine.
Good luck.
I'll drown in this part. It's all good.
I kind of adore the art. This is what stopped me, and I think I'll be really impressed if you get it. I've never heard of this card before. It's really unique, I think. The card is Death Spark.
Death Spark. I'm so out of my depth here. This is if Yaw's nice, it'd be a Boros card, but it's not. I don't think it is. It's
I thought about that. And I was like, no way. Can I do? They probably have looked at every Boros card out there, so I went deep.
This is definitely a black card. Instant. The fact that I haven't heard about it or seen it all that much means that it's probably kind of like out there. So probably like 3-drop. I'm going to say 3-drop instant, does some sort of sack a thing, give something. Well, black doesn't do damage though, right? So black with sack a thing.
Wait, so 3 cost. You think it's 2 and a black?
2 and a black. Two and a black. Sure, let's go with 2 and a black. Instant, sack a creature and it doesn't deal damage. I give that'd be so good. I almost went like make mana based off of like the mana
The burnt
cost.
offering.
Yeah, it's also a burnt offering. No, I know it's wrong, but we'll say give something 2 -1/-1 counters, or X.
Okay.
Oh, sorry, -X. Easy.
Okay,
Okay.
-X based on the power or the mana cost.
Power of the creature that you sacked. Sure.
Okay. What is your vision on the artwork for this Death Spark?
Some gross necrotic hand because all black cards are like that, and then it's like snapping, and there's like lightning coming out of it.
Thanos,
then,
zombie Thanos snap.
Yeah, and then like just somebody like keeled over in the background.
Any flavor text for Death Spark?
Wait, don't.
That's good.
Wait, don't.
It's so far off.
Yeah.
But we'll see what it is.
You got components of the card. Okay,
Nice.
so Death Spark is a red card. Actually,
Oh no!
I got into your head about it. I was like, no way can I bring a red card, but this is a red card. It's a 1 red pip for an instant, and it reads: Death Spark deals 1 damage to any target. And then here's the fun part for me. At the beginning of your upkeep, if this card is in your graveyard with a creature card directly above it, you may pay 1 generic. If you do, return this card to your hand.
What the heck?
I've never seen that as a
Cringe.
as a thing, right?
A card that cares about the order of your graveyard.
Oh
Cringe.
no!
Shallow grave? Question mark?
Yeah, shallow grave, corpse dance. Oh, any card like this. As someone who played corpse dance for years, it's so annoying to play.
Yeah.
With a card that makes you care about
like
your
you
graveyard.
can't touch your graveyard really. Like you got to.
You can't hand it over because if somebody moves it, you're like,
moves
please
it around.
stop.
You're like, please don't.
Please don't. I play a card that this matters.
Yeah, and then you have to give information that you play a card that cares about your graveyard.
And the art does involve like I would argue it's kind of like a lightning bolt-esque, right?
Yeah.
Like a little bit
for sure,
right?
This art is terrifying.
I'm sure it's so scary.
It's
oh
on the screen, but it is so creepy. Just like a bust of a human head.
Several busts. 3 busts.
Yeah. 3 busts just getting lightning struck through the forehead.
That's a splitting headache.
This is like Mark Teeden's. It's really good.
Yeah, but
ironically, I have a deck I can maybe play this in.
There you go.
I knew it.
There we go. It's incredibly affordable, sitting at 22 cents. So
there we go.
Oh, all right. Thank you, listeners, for playing. That's a good card? ? And thank you, Wayne, for playing along with us. I will have a good time trying to draw a snapping hand in Microsoft Paint because I'm pretty sure it's like a meme in the art world that like drawing hands is really hard. Yeah, exactly. So and I'm a horrible artist, so this is gonna look awful and it's on the screen right now. But anyway, we've come to the end of the podcast. Wayne, thank you so much for joining us. This was super fun. We got into some super deep points for Damping Sphere, and I had a blast. Yeah. I just want to kind of give you the floor to talk about anything that you want. Plug whatever you want. The floor is yours.
This is crazy. I remember listening to you guys way back when we first started playing CDH, and now like having the small amount of notoriety that I have to be able to like come on and like talk to you guys is like really, really cool. Happy to do it again. And if you guys ever need any filler, I've got a lot of random ass tech that we can talk about. Plugs. Currently, mostly the big projects are Bite Sized Magic with Zach. Go check them out. We just did a Zirda deck tech, and the most recent episode that should be coming out is a breakdown with Sylvie.
Awesome.
And a conversation with her, and that was a lot of fun. The other big project is me and my friend Ben plays a lot of Animar, Benamar, we call him. We have a TO organization called BFF, which is really working on bringing some more tournaments to LA. The more notable ones are in December 6th at Lost Level Games, which is this, Lost Level Card Shops, which is this really, really cool vibe shop. We're going to be holding a hopefully 64 tournament, 64 player tournament. And then if that goes well, hopefully an even larger one the following year. So please come out to that if you're in the SoCal area. Other than that, find me, play games, spell table, LA, hit me up. We're around, feel free to grab us.
I'll be there.
Heck yeah. Amazing. Well, I'm sure Ya will be there. I will think about potentially making the trip out there. We'll see if I can make it happen. if work allows. That'd be sick.
We'd love to have you.
I've been really wanting to come down to a SoCal tournament, another one, because every time I go down for Fishbowl, it's just such a blast.
Yeah.
So I want to make the trip down. We'll see if I can make it work, but we'll see.
Like this shop is cool because like the owner's sitting there playing CDH. Like
hell yeah,
you know
we love
that.
That's
the vibe. You know.
Oh, we love this.
Every shop that has somebody who's like really in tune with the CEDH community is always just a great bastion for the community. So
yeah, exactly.
We love to hear it. Awesome.
100%.
All right, well, we'll post links to all those things that we talked about down below. Thank you so much for coming on to the podcast today, Wayne. And I'm sure this won't be the last time that we hear from you.
Oh, 100%. I'm ready. I'll let you know how PP Cam works out.
Yeah, let us know. All right, you heard it here, folks. Butt Rock, that's a good card. Please direct your attention to the links down below, where you'll find everywhere that we host our podcast, whether that's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or YouTube. Huge shout out to our lovely patrons, Jatterjite and Go to Combat MTG, for being high-level patrons in our Patreon here. Thank you so much for all the support. Additionally, if you want to check out more Tag C content, please check out our Patreon down below. All right. Thank you so much, and we will see you next Monday. Bye.
Play more Magic, guys. Ciao.
Play more Magic.